our next step in the solstice is Colombia. So Colombia, the word Colombia means dove, the land of the dove. Why? Because of Christophorus Columbus. But Columbus is a name, comes from Colombo, that means dove. And And there's another thing that I was thinking coming here to the lake, something that someone called my attention to, which was, did you notice that the flag of Armenia is very similar to the flag of Colombia? And our next step in the solstice is Colombia. So Colombia, the word Colombia means dove, the land of the dove. Why? Because of Christophorus Columbus. But Columbus is a name, comes from Colombo, that means dove. And remember that we have been talking about the dove that guides Noah's Ark, and that the captain of this consciousness is the sun. And I've been sharing this for years, that for me Colombia represents the sun in South America. And the Colombian native people, they put a lot of attention about cleaning the water and taking care of the water. And I was thinking from what exactly? And maybe it's because of the fluoride and the fluorine that people put on the water. So I think that is to keep the purity of God intact, which is the three eyes of God: hydrogen, oxygen, the molecule of water. So for the boat to go in the right direction, it needs to follow the dove, for the pineal not to become a stone. It's very funny that the president of Colombia is Petro, which means stone, by the way. And that the solstice is exactly on the day of the elections, of presidential elections. So I think that there is a whole work of redirecting the direction of the boat, of Noah's Ark, which is the planet Earth. And maybe the steering wheel of the boat is Colombia. So following the codes. Maybe we have to go to the city of Armenia in Colombia. But clearly it's a very important step for June. So this process of consciousness that happens in between May and June, between Taurus and Gemini, is something that the ancient ones used to call Bugonia or Bugonia. So Bugonia is an ancient concept of alchemy that defines the process when Mithra, the god of the sun, defeats the bull, and the bull, when it dies, turns into bees. And I think it's a very symbolical process for what we are working today. And I think it's a very important clue about Bugonia today, for this process that we're going to live in the next 2 months. Yeah. So I guess that whatever I anchor here, we will reactivate it from Arpi, from the sun, to Guatavita in Colombia. So I leave you with the concept of Bugonia. So I give you all these clues now. Search for Bugonia, study it, learn about the ionization that bees use in the flowers, learn about the crystallization of the pineal gland. I leave you all of that today. In Cyprus, I was told I should join the UN to find a key to the mission to correct the navigation of consciousness. And without expecting it, during the alchemy of sodium to magnesium, the path opened to enter into the hands of the best who could guide me inside the UN in New York. To my surprise, at the most important negotiating table of the UN, this month, Colombia was captain of all the talks. It made me think about how difficult it must be to put so many different countries, cultures, and languages on the same table to solve a problem. In a world of polarizations that seeks unity and does nothing else but fight for differences, maybe we should do it the other way around. Try to remember that we come from one to the many, so we could value differences as expansion instead of judging the different fighting for being one. In this dualized world, I can note, critical thinking or free questioning always turns into a simplistic binary discussion. For or against, right or left, bad or good, north or south. Moving to another level of reality also implies transcending the mechanisms that condition this reality. How interesting a world would be if instead of looking for us to be one, would focus on remembering that we were already one from the beginning, and now we are only experiencing its facets. How interesting it would be to stop looking for the truth and start living it. Let go of the need to identify in order to be. Questioning power without being classified. Power to discover without being judged. The ability to imagine without condition. Maybe the UN wouldn't have to exist if we all knew that we were always one. And even more so, we would be very free if we ever remembered that the universe never cared to be one again, but to simply be. For months ago, in our equinox and solstice meetings, we have been working on a very specific idea: Colombia as the helm of the ship of consciousness. A symbolic image that tells us direction, orientation, and direction. The proposal for ÆLTUM, ALUNA, on the June solstice arises justly from that vision. The need to turn the helm to the source, to remember where we come from before deciding where we are going. Because no one can navigate correctly if they have forgotten their starting point. Therefore, we have talked about the ship, the arc, the navigation of consciousness, the turn, the axis, and the dove as a symbol of guidance, the one that in ancient stories was sent to find solid ground and point out the way. Interestingly, while we were preparing for this encounter, reality began to reflect exactly those same symbols. In Colombia, one of the political movements has begun to use the image of Noah's Ark as a representation of their project for the country. At the same time, one of the figures that could define the direction of the next election is called Paloma. And the decision occurs precisely during the solstice period, the time of the year that symbolizes the change in direction of the sun and adjustment of the navigation axis. I do not share this as a political stance. As a matter of fact, it happens beyond any ideology. When we talk about left and right, north and south, government or opposition, we talk about positions within the human mind, polarities necessary so we can observe and understand each other. What catches my attention isn't who's right. What catches my eye is that the very symbols we've been exploring for a long time now appear represented in reality in such an obvious way. As if the territory itself is reminding us what the task is. Don't pick a side, but correct the course. Because before we move the ship to a new horizon, we must first remember where the origin lies. Rainbow Bridge, on the 19th of June, 2026. Participation is free. The event will be streamed live on YouTube. Everyone is encouraged to organize gatherings in their own territories for the solstice. This year's focus will be on the element hydrogen, representing water. If possible, gather near a natural body of water, such as a lake, a river, a waterfall, the ocean, or any other significant water source. Remember that this is a manifestival to welcome the solstice and celebrate a new state of consciousness. Participants may choose to call upon water deities or spiritual beings associated with water, use hand mudras, invite elders to participate, and work with their own ancestral traditions and cultural practices. Jolinada Solstice Gathering. Date, 20 June 2026. Location, Piedras del Tunjo, Colombia. Time, 1 p.m. Bogotá time. The gathering will welcome the summer and winter solstice. The event will be streamed live on YouTube if internet connectivity allows. If a live stream is not possible, the event will be recorded and uploaded to the Yo Soy Red YouTube channel. Hydrogen, the primordial titan, archetype, creator, gods of the origin, titans of the first breath, lords of the void becoming light. Essence is the father of all forms, the one that existed before time. Cultures have revered it as the original spirit that divides itself to create everything else. The first fire, the first water, the first spark. It is the God with no face, because it is all faces. Examples of deities: chaos, Greek, Europe. The primordial void from which everything emerged, Ometeotl, Aztec, America. The dual God, source of all duality. Purusha, Hindu, Asia. The primordial cosmic being who sacrifices itself to create the universe. Noon, Egyptian, Africa. The primordial waters of the original chaos. Ranginui, Maori, Oceania. The primordial Skyfather. Why this connection? Hydrogen is the simplest and oldest element in the universe, born in the Big Bang. It is the most abundant element, making up about 75% of the universe, and it was the first element to exist. Like the primordial gods who existed before creation, hydrogen preceded everything else and gave rise to all heavier elements within the hearts of stars. Its simplicity, consisting of one proton and one electron, reflects the primordial unity that existed before diversity.